Say there, friend, is that old slime sling letting you down every time it lifts you up? Uh-huh. Whee! Tired of banging your head on every block when you're trying to go from point A to point B? Yeah. Hey, let's explore that house over there. Well, my head. Oh no, not again. Well, let's turn that curse of frowns upside down and dispel that now by coming down to Awulfha's Broom and Zoom. Well, we got all your finest brooms available for retail purchase. That's right, we got things for even the most discerning witch out there. We got brooms made out of mahogany, brooms made out of witch hazel. We got brooms made out of willow, fireproof, waterproof, hexproof, brooms with extra storage for carrying around all your belongings, interdimensional pockets for the witch in need, as well as this one here. This beauty's got an extra seat to bring a friend along for the ride. And don't just stop at brooms, friend. We also carry accessories for brooms. We got the regular standard. We got the enhanced broom brush. We got the ones that move faster under the midnight light. As we know, all you witches out there are going to be wanting to be A to B to C. A, B, Z, it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Come on down to Awulfha's Broom and Zoom today. With prices so low, we'll sweep you off your feet. Hello and hi everyone, my name is Awulfha and welcome back to Minecraft. And can you guess what today's episode is all about? That's right, it's all about the broom. We're going to be learning a little bit of hexerei, going through the motions and making a broom, but to the observant of you, you do see something in my hotbar already because I've got two things to address. The first thing that I want to talk about is this is my second attempt at recording the episode 2. I actually went ahead and made this broom in an episode and realized I didn't really like the footage. It felt a little too helter-skelter. It felt a little too all over the place. So in the vein of wanting this to be a cohesive series and have some focus in it, I decided that I'm going to bin the entirety of that footage, which sucks, but I think ultimately will be a better series for it. I'm going to list it as an unlisted video in the description. I'm going to list it as an unlisted video. I'm going to put it as an unlisted video in the description so that way you can see how that episode went and what doesn't quite meet my standards. But ultimately, we're going to start over from scratch and start this lesson over from scratch. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a couple tips and tricks that I was going through organically as I came across them in the world that I feel like are important to pass on information-wise to any new witches out there going to Cottage Witch for the first time. So I want to address those with you. So why don't we go ahead and start, before we do those lessons, on discussing what some of those tips and tricks are going to be.
And that's where I come in.
Who are you?
I go by many names, stranger. The Eternal Wanderer, the Horizon Strider, and I'm your best person that can give you all the tips and tricks to surviving in the harsh environment that is a Cottage Witch world.
But it's not that difficult.
Never mind that. Let's jump into a theater of the mind so that we can discuss all the tips and tricks for surviving in this harsh environment. Lesson 1. When out about in the world, you will sometimes come across villages, battle towers, or the like that have waystones that are available for you. Waystones allow interdimensional travel between 2 points for any waystone that you've activated with a right click. By default, Cottage Witch has allowed you the ability to remove these with pickaxes, so I recommend putting them wherever you plan to traverse most often. And there is a limitation on the usage of a waystone, however. Distance. Whether it is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 blocks, or into another dimension in its entirety, XP will be required, and as you saw from the menu, 1,000 blocks is 1 experience level, 2,000 blocks 2 experience levels, 3,000 blocks 3,000 experience, 3 experience levels. Sorry, I cannot count. And interdimensional travel takes 3 levels by default. I highly recommend the crafting of a warp stone in order to teleport for free regardless of distance. They will save you a lot of time, headache, and effort, especially in the early game and well into the late game. When mining stone with a pickaxe, sometimes you will get lucky and find a lucky rock. These are very useful things that you can find in the world from Mastery's tools. By opening up your Curios menu and scrolling down to the bottom, you'll have a couple of pockets in which you can stick your lucky rock into. The lucky rock increases your ability to find rare treasures when even mining even the most mundane of stones. Things like diamonds, redstone, and iron will fill your pockets very easily when doing things that you would normally do. That's the reason why you should not rely solely on the caster tome for doing all the hard labor. It's time to get your hands dirty. Today's final quick tip for survival. When mining or doing anything in this world, your inventory is going to fill up very, very quickly. So you're going to want to have a backpack as soon as possible. There are other items that can assist you with carrying things, but we'll do a deeper dive on that at a later date. For now, I feel like covering you with a backpack is the most critical. Now, sophisticated storage is in this mod pack, and that means you have access normally to the sophisticated backpacks. But as you can see here, they are not craftable in this mod pack. You can only find them in end city loot, making them very, very difficult to collect all the things that you want. However, there is a configuration to change this if you wish to, and you can find it pinned in the Cottage Witch Discord. I'll have the link down below and make sure Awulfha takes care of you. But for now, what you are expected to utilize and what we will be utilizing for this playthrough will be the backpack here that you see from Backpacked. It goes into your curio slot, and it is significant enough for you to have everything that you need to store so you can collect all the things that you want. And with that, the Horizon's calling my name, so I'm gonna leave you back to Awulfha so you can get your lesson on making a broom, since you're apparently too good to use your own 2 feet to walk around. See you in the future. Maybe. I don't know if this character's coming back or not.
So with those early game tips out of the way, the first time when I did this episode, my first recording of it, I tried to weave those in organically, and I just felt it took away from the tone of the episode. And because I was constantly doing things while I was giving you those tips, I couldn't cut anything because then it made sense on where I was and what I was doing. So I'll try to be mindful of that in the future. But let's begin our lessons into hexerei, Brooms 101, since that is the reason that we are here today. It is the crucible, the crux of this episode. So to begin, let's start off with a little bit introduction into hexerei itself. Hexerei is all about magic. It is about beyond more than just brooms. It has solutions to everything. It is a problem solver of a school of magic, a problem solver of a mod, if you will. It has coffers, which is basically shulker boxes, but better. It has brooms, which of course for traveling, and it has crows, which you can use to automate a few things like farming and things like that. There's actually quite a few ways in this mod pack to automate the process of farming. The hexerei is one of the more unique ways of doing it, and probably one of the most clean ways if you get it to work. We're going to start off though with only the brooms. This is Brooms 101, so let's begin properly. The very first thing in hexerei that you're going to have is you're going to get a dowsing rod. And the reason you're going to start off with the dowsing rod, beyond the fact that Cottage Witch starts there and all the rewards are kind of tied with starting here, is this tool is very critical for helping you get progressed in the mod. You need to find a jungle or a swamp biome, and as you see when I twist and turn here, the leaves change color. The dowsing rod points into the direction for the closest swamp or closest jungle biome. Now, you're not going to know which is which, unfortunately, with the dowsing rod, and another critical problem I have with it is you're not going to know distance. You don't know if you're in for a 5-minute journey or a 30-minute journey with this. So in order to maximize your time and not have to deal with just endless wanderings unless you're okay with that, Cottage Witch has done something very intelligent with it. They have made it the centerpiece for a nature's compass instead of a regular compass. So with this, you can actually craft the nature's compass, which to the uninitiated, the nature's compass just allows a simple right click and to type in the name of whatever biome you're looking for. And assuming that you're in the right world, so let's say we wanted to find a dark forest, which is what I found before. No, this one's in the Twilight Forest, so it's not going to come up with anything. Let's do that one more time. We'll go with the one that's actually in the overworld. You can see where it is. It tells you direction, distance, and coordinates, which makes it a very useful tool, and you're going to want to upgrade as quickly as possible to the Nature's Compass, in my humble opinion. But if you want to get familiar with the dowsing rod in case you run into a mod pack in the future where a Nature's Compass isn't available to you, definitely something to do. It is a pretty straightforward tool, however. From there, once you find a swamp or a structure like this, or a forest, you're going to find some herbs. So let's go over to the garden here, because all the herbs actually show up in the garden beds. Here we see the herbs in their natural environment, reusing the joke from the first time I recorded this. This is one of the places that they can spawn. You have sage, which you can actually get the sage seeds from any grass, like any grass out in the world by breaking it. Mandrakes, which are super important for making brooms. And then we're going to have some belladonna in here, some yellow dockleaf, some mugwort. Now, unfortunately, the hexerei herbs have a very limited amount of use. They're only really good for broom brushes at the moment. I think that's going to be changing in the future, though. But for now, you don't need too many of them. This garden is sufficient for our needs. You can also, I'm right clicking here to harvest the plant, but you can also break the plant and translocate it by just breaking it and getting the plant itself and moving it somewhere else. But as I said before, I don't actually need a ton of these, so just coming over here to this garden for now is sufficient for me. And honestly, one set of plants, even on a multiplayer server, is probably sufficient for a multitude of witches because there are that limited uses of them. But let's go over to the mixing cauldron and I will show you what we can do with them. Now, the mixing cauldron is a pretty straightforward item to utilize. You have a little section here that you can have a liquid. This one in particular requires water for this recipe. Dock leaves, wheat, mandrake roots, and a little bit of mugwort. And with that, you get a wet broom brush, which is one of the components to making a broom work. Now, you don't actually have to fabricate any of these in order to get your first broom, but it is important to have a couple of these on hand in case you need to make replacements. Then, when you have your wet broom brush, you take it over to a drying rack, which is a piece of string, 2 sticks, and a slab, and you can dry things on it. I highly recommend making a drying rack as soon as possible, even if you don't have the means to make the wet broom brushes right away, because you can hang zombie flesh off of here to get some extra leather. And while there are a lot of sources for leather in this mod pack, that's one of the best ways of getting it very early on, unless you happen to run into a little herd of cattle. Now, from the Dowsium Rod rewards in Hexerei, if you don't want to go looking for the other biome, or if you just want to get the saplings very easily in a guaranteed way, you get the mahogany sapling, which in my opinion is the best sapling for hexerei. There are 3 different saplings that you can get. You can get the willow, the witch hazel, or the mahogany. And the mahogany by far has the most uses. It is what you use for coffers. It's what you use for the mahogany broom, which is the best broom, which is the broom that I have here in my inventory because I'm pretty bougie and I want this. But we'll talk about this in just a moment. We're not going to talk about it just yet. But these are the mahogany logs. They're actually very beautiful too. A great decorative block. There's a lot of great decorative options for your witchy vibes in the hexerei mod. Now let's talk brooms. There are 3 different types of brooms, though the reality is there's actually only 2 different types of brooms and just one alternative with a different coat of paint. So the starter brooms, which are the 2 brooms that I refer to as basically being the same broom but with a different coat of paint, is the willow broom and the witch hazel broom. And as you can see, the recipe changes, so whatever resources are available to you are going to determine which of these 2 that you make if you decide not to skip over to a mahogany broom like I did. I personally feel the willow broom is too expensive for what it is, costing 2 blocks of gold, whereas the witch hazel broom costs a singular diamond. But whatever saplings that you happen to find is going to determine which of those 2 that you're going to go with. The mahogany broom is faster and is the late game broom, but unfortunately for it, it costs a netherite ingot, so it is a bit expensive to get into. And there's still another reagent you're going to need in addition to that. You're going to need some blood. It's appropriate that it started raining the moment I talked about blood, huh? Blood doesn't just grow out of the ground, even though I've got some here naturally forming out of the ground. Blood actually has to be obtained getting a blood sigil. So if we look at the quest book here, it is this part of it here. And the blood sigil requires polished blackstone. Now there's 2 little things I want to talk about organically, kind of in the same vein that I talked about before. We're going to have to ignore the rain because I've tried to record this multiple times at this point, and I don't care anymore. No, I do care, but you know, I'm just going to let it go. First and foremost, you can get crying obsidian fairly easily from a nether portal, and the reason you're going to want it is because you can right click with it and get these right here, bottles of dimensional tears. Dimensional tears allows you to basically teleport to your respawn point instantaneously by drinking the bottle. And it is a fantastic way of moving about through the world very quickly, especially returning from long journeys once you only need the one thing in the one biome far away that you needed to grab and you wanted to come home right away to finish your craft. So highly recommend doing that. But we can generate crying obsidian. So let's show you how to do that by going back outside because I teleported inside. When you have a nether portal and you light it, you can break the nether portal as you would in vanilla. But when you do so, you have a chance of generating crying obsidian. And as you saw with bottles, you can right click crying obsidian to do this to make the dimensional tears. Now, something to note, when you do this with 1 bottle at a time, the bottles won't stack. It's a bug with the NBT data, but if you have 3 bottles in hand and do it like this, you'll sometimes get them to stack. So this can be advantageous if you want to have a few of them on hand. Just get a bunch of crying obsidian together and be able to get multiple bottles of dimensional tears. I guess it is appropriate that it's raining. seeking temporary refuge from the rain, let's talk fire resistance potions, because a lot of people do not like the nether. To quote myself in the other clip, the nether sucks. Well, most people would think that. I personally don't, because I lived in the nether for 2 years, but I could understand the sentiment. Every time I watch a Minecraft video, someone's like, I hate the nether. I never want to come back, but I have to, but I never want to. But in this one, you're going to want to at some point. You're going to need to at some point. So let's help you out a little bit to the best of our ability. Now, one of the things that you can get is magma creams in the overworld in this mod pack. By trading with an alchemist villager, making an alchemist table at a level 2, you can buy magma creams. And this is very simple to craft. It's just 3 cobbled deep slate, 2 pieces of glass, you get an alchemist table. From there, with hexerei, which is why we're bringing it up now beyond the fact that we're going into the nether, in a potion brewing stand, you can actually make fire resistance potions. But you're thinking, oh, but I need awkward potions, which means I still need netherwort, which means I still need to go to the nether. No, not at all. Awkward potions can be made from netherwort, yes, and netherwort can actually be found rarely in structures. I'll show you a satchel that I found in one of the buildings, but you can also get it from abjuration essence, which we're not going to talk about in this episode, but it's a fairly easy process to get abjuration essence in the overworld before ever stepping foot into the nether, which means you can have fire resistance from the very first step into that untamed waste. So that should make your life a little bit more easier, a little bit emboldened, which is why I wanted to cover it here. Even if that's not part of Broom 101, I feel like this flows and dovetails nicely into the subject matter that we're talking about and will be relevant to a lot of people out there. In your travels, you may come across a house on a hill with an necropolis, or, well, maybe not a necropolis, but a graveyard in front of it. And inside of there will be a dungeon with a prison. And inside that prison, there will be blood, but there will also be netherwort sacks. It's not the only structure in the overworld that you can find these, but these right here, certified netherwort that came from the overworld. And with this, you'll be able to make your fire resistance potions. So do not despair. It is possible to get as quickly prepared as possible. Well, not as quickly as possible. Get prepared as possible as it could be to enter the nether. The rain has subsided finally, so now we can talk about brooms. Now, brooms come in 3 different components, beyond the fact that there are a multitude of brooms. You have the brush component, the satchel component, and the tips. Let's start off with the brush component because it is the simplest. The brush comes in several different types. You have the standard broom brush, which is what you get when you first start with your broom. And as you can see, it actually changes the color of the broom itself. Primarily, the reason I like this one is because it's silver, and I just like the way this looks. This looks fancy to me. But the regular broom brush is sufficient for flight. You have the enhanced broom brush, which has 200 durability and is a little bit better than the standard broom brush. And then you use the enhanced broom brush to move over to the moon dust brush, which requires you to make moon dust. Moon dust is a bit of a hassle to craft because while it's only glowstone and redstone in equal parts with a little bit of water, it requires a moon phase. It can only be crafted at night under the light of the full moon. Last episode, I teased about having a hole over here in the roof, wondering what it could mean. The idea for that was where it's going to be our hexerei room, and that's where the mixing cauldron is going to sit, because I need access to the full moon in order to craft moon dust. So that was the reason for that. We're actually going to build out that at the end of this episode. I'm excited to actually put the room together, but we got to move on and talk about the rest of this before we get too distracted. Satchels are pretty straightforward for the ones that increase your inventory capacity. If I don't have the room for this, so we're just going to chuck it all on the ground here so I can show you what happens. When you have no satchel, when you have your very first default broom, you have no inventory in it whatsoever. When you have a satchel in there, you gain inventory space. The small one gives you 9, the medium gives you 18, the large one gives you 27. The ender satchel actually gives you, hold on, let's put everything back in. The ender satchel actually gives you access to your ender chest. And the replacer satchel is an interesting one in that it allows you to have replacements in your inventory here. So if this broom brush was here, I was flying along, this one broke, it would be replaced with this broom brush, allowing me to maintain flight. It is a godsend in the early game, and I highly recommend making something like that until you get to a point where you have a couple of brushes with mending and unbreaking 3, or so on and so forth. Last, you have the broom seat, which gives you a little bit of inventory space, if I remember correctly, and allows you to have a secondary player ride along with you on your moonlit jaunts across the sky. So on a multiplayer server, it's fantastic. I might have a little trick that I can show you in the next episode. We'll cover that, though, when we talk about that subject for that one. But the broom seat primarily isn't something that you're going to be doing in a single player playthrough. Lastly, we got to talk about the tips. They come in two different flavors, mostly decorative, but there's also functional. The decorative archetype are going to be your gold rings, which just adds 2 rings in the front. The broom chain, which I'm going to pull out here so that you can see what this looks like. The broom chain basically allows you to have a decal on the front of your broom. You can craft or uncraft it, so you can always use it as extra storage as well. I primarily feel like the broom chain works best with 2D objects. When you use a 3D object, it doesn't tend to render very cleanly. See that? Well, I guess that did work, but it looks a little funky to me because even though it's 3D, it just doesn't feel right. I feel like 2D objects are going to work best when working with the broom chain. The other 2 ones are going to be the netherite tip and the broom waterproof tip. And those ones, as you saw from the video that I did at the beginning of this episode, basically add the ability to have fire resistance or water resistance for the broom. You don't want your broom to catch on fire, so the netherite tip is fantastic when going through the nether, but it's a very expensive tip requiring 4 pieces of netherite in order to make. 1, 2, 3, 4, essentially 4 pieces of netherite. The waterproof one is a little bit more easy to craft. It does require a conduit, though. That's the most expensive piece by far. But it basically allows you to not fall off of your broom when you come into contact with water, which is great. But how often are you actually going to run through a waterfall when flying through the air? That's the question you have to ask yourself if you're going to craft one. You might do it for aesthetics, you might do it for looks, but when it comes to utility, it's probably the least useful of them, in my opinion. So it's up to you if you want to actually craft that together. I mean, if you got the extra conduit, why not? Also, don't you love how the leaves kind of fall off the back of this? It's so... you're a witch. You should love brooms as much as I love broom. I love this broom. I love this broom. I can't wait to use it. Another thing that we got to talk about is the broom whistle. This broom whistle is attached to this broom. By crafting it next to the broom, which is a very simple craft itself. Again, mahogany, proving once again that it's the most valuable of the hexerei woods. A piece of bamboo and a stone button allows you to craft this. Now, let's say the broom was somewhere far away that you couldn't get it. It was stuck. You need help. Well, I went into swim mode there. The broom whistle allows you to bring the broom to you. It does have durability on it, though. As you can see, it's already at 97 of 100. So you got to be careful with it. Make sure you got a brand new one when you start running low. You can put unbreaking and mending on it. If you've got the spare books, go for it. But ultimately, you just want to make sure you have this on your person, not in your broom, somewhere that you can get access to it in case this ends up getting lost or it's too high for you to reach. I shouldn't have hit that twice. Another thing that I can point out about the broom, you can use it as a standing platform, and you can also use it to help you climb quickly. As long as you are not riding the broom to and fro, the durability on the broom does not decrease. So this will not decrease as long as I'm not riding it around. And as you can see, I can move it around a little bit, and I won't lose any durability whatsoever. And to reclaim the broom, it's a little too high. So we're just gonna jump up there. There we go. You just break it like a boat. And it's back in your inventory. Easy as breathing. And lastly, you can have multiple brooms on you, so sometimes it's good practice to name your brooms. I've decided to go with Dappled Moonlight. Probably not the most original of names, but I just like the idea of it. And you get to see the name when you have it, and when you have it down. Besides it showing up in JEI, whenever you look at it, I absolutely adore that. So, Dappled Moonlight it is. Now, I feel like I've done talked your ear off well enough. It's time to do something a little bit different. Let's do a little bit of building. I'm going to clean out that room that we had downstairs I showed last episode and get our little hexerei witchery set up. Now, I don't want to toot my own horn, but regardless, I think I did a really good job on this. So you might be thinking, okay, what are you planning for your little hexerei space? What are you going to do, huh? Is it going to be just a little place for the cauldron to be? Is there gonna be maybe some decorations on the wall? Maybe you're gonna really take advantage of like the decorative mods in here, the furniture mods. You're gonna have some cluttered stuff all over the place. You're gonna throw some rugs on the floor. Well, yes, but also no. A lot of it actually is well, you'll see here in just a moment. But again, I'm really excited by the concept of this. It's very functional, including being decorative. So let's not hold it back anymore without further ado. So we come down here and you get your first look at it. Now, of course, obviously, this is where the mixing cauldron was going to go. This is where it was always meant to be, because that's where the hole in the ceiling is. Oh, I didn't actually notice this bit. I'll fix that. That won't be too big of a deal. But we step down into this space. Of course, it's raining again, but at least we're indoors. And if we use our imagination, we can pretend this is where all the mahogany comes from. So we grow some mahogany trees in here for all of our crafts. Oh, it's also snowing in this biome. And then we come over here, and I'm really proud of this space. It feels very organic. It's very lively. You need the wheats. You have all of the different herbs that hexerei requires. So everything is right here at our fingertips for all of our brews, organically picked right in our own little workshop. We have an infinite water source tucked away in here with a water source block here and here, making this infinite. And then just a little decorative waterfall coming down. Of course, we have also various plants for color, but of course there's utility in all the 2 tall plants. A little bit of bone meal. We can duplicate these for various dyes and fabrics. A little terrarium up on top. These mushrooms are actually spreading organically, and I kind of wish I didn't pick the one that actually popped over here, but these will slowly encroach on the space. We have plenty of mushrooms for whatever, brews and magical potions and things of that nature that we're going to be making. Here we have a bunch of herbs up on top. We have all kinds of hexerei accessories, including the mortar, which we didn't cover, but we can cover in a future date. These are witch hazel chests, which I kind of pilfered, took from the village up on top. And then the altars add a good contrast against the mahogany wall. It's a real basic repeating design that I actually had in this entire space here, but broke intentionally. So that way it looked like it belonged, like it makes sense in your head. You can see this pattern coming through, but then someone knocked out this wall and then there was this lush cave underneath. And then as you notice with the rugs, what I try to do is a little bit of feng shui. I try to do a little bit of a flow. So you have flow that comes in this direction and kind of naturally guides you in this way. But then also this is very enticing and it kind of comes in and curves in this direction. But if we continue in this direction past this section here, past this little decorative with our broom here. Let's say mahogany broom. That still has my name, right? Yes, Apple Moonlight. I thought it said it here too. I guess I was wrong. Just a little bit of decorations, a little bit of a seating area next to my broom so I don't forget it. Cinnamon roll, a drink. So there's our cluttered. I had to do a little bit of it. But coming down here, we have lava hidden away up here because lava is a requirement for a few crafts in hexerei. Specifically for the jars up there, you need a little bit of lava and some sand in the mixing cauldron. So we have to have renewable sources. So we're taking advantage of dripstone, generating lava so we don't have to go too far afield. And then we've got a nice little lava flow right here. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really do anything, but just the opposition between the 2 cave types that were added in like 1.18 or 1.19. I forget which version of Minecraft. You got the lush cave, you got the dripstone cave, and I just like that they're here, and I like that they serve a purpose both in the hexerei herbs and the water source that we're going to need for brewing, and then the infinite lava source as well. And this is, I wish it had more purpose. Why are you here? I wish it had more purpose. I'm not really sure what else I can do. I can probably put some glow lichen in here and use that as a space to like grow more of it. But since it doesn't really have to do with hexerei, I'm not really sure I want to, but yeah. And then this space here did something pretty neat. There are little mage lights hidden in the tree because good trees have spaces in between, as you might follow from some other Minecraft YouTubers would tell you. So yeah, there's just a couple of those hidden away inside the leaves. I figured still getting the air, still getting the feel of a tree, but it's got a little bit more. And then it looks like it's overgrown a bit. Now I went with moss blocks here because there is a ceiling here, like dirt and stuff like that, because of course this is the second layer, so obviously the house is above here. But I don't think it looks too bad. It's better than looking through the leaves and seeing the dirt underneath, so you gotta have some concessions when you're working within a tight space like we are. but I am absolutely loving this. This was well worth the time. I did not have any moss. I did not have any glowberries. I didn't have any dripstone. So this was a lot of resource gathering, even though it doesn't really look like it. But this is, to me, this is a very nice place. I could definitely see myself having a workshop like this, doing my little witchy thing, doing my little brews and stuff like that. I also have a little book here. I'm going to make a book of shadows as well, but I don't have any animal fat. I need to probably find some more animals besides sheep. I thought, maybe the sheep will do it. No, the sheep don't drop it, I guess. Might have to just be pigs, or it might be a cow. I haven't killed either as far as I'm aware, so. But yeah, that's what we got so far. And boy, this space looks so austere, so, well, not dingy, but it just looks so plain Jane in comparison to this one, doesn't it? Look how warm and inviting this is. You got the stone over there. You got the little peaks of deep slate that I had to cook because I don't have silk touch. I had to cook all this deep slate, but it was so worth it because it just looks better than the cobbled wood for that kind of vibe, and I just absolutely adore this space. Well, that's all I got. This episode's running too long in the tooth. Way too long. I'm trying to keep these episodes short, trimmed, and clean for you so that way you can enjoy them and move on with your life. So I will see you all later for episode 3. Thank you again for hanging out with me. And if you check out episode 2, i.e. the lost episode 2, that I'm going to put as unlisted, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, let me know what you thought of it. Not because I didn't think it was good enough to post. I did not think it was good enough to post. That's why I took the time to re-record everything. But primarily, this has been not very Let's Play, has it? Hasn't been that much Let's Play. So I want to try and show you things as I do them. You know, that's a very fundamental kind of part of Minecraft. It's like, hey, we're doing this thing, let's do it together, not talk for like at the camera for 10 minutes like I've been with the last 2 episodes. So I'm gonna try and figure it out. But if you don't dislike this format, you know, like the one that this episode currently represents, then let me know, because I can do both. I don't mind talking at the camera, but I just think that might be a little boring. But again, we've all done Minecraft for many years at this point, most likely. So maybe it's not boring. I don't know. You know what? Just give me your thoughts. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinion. And I will catch you all later because this is the long goodbye and we can't do long goodbyes. Goodbye.